As it is approaching 18 months old, a year and a half, and with the 2019 MacBook Pro out, as well as a possible fall refresh of an even better 2019 MacBook Pro, I wanted to take a look back at my machine, my first big Mac upgrade, and see how it has been holding up after 18 months. Let's check it out. So I did a 6-month review of this computer on my personal channel, which you can check out if you want, and I had some serious gripes with it. Overall, I really liked the machine, but I, without a doubt, had some serious gripes. So in this video, I want to go over all those gripes I had, readdress them, and see if it has changed almost a year later. So one of my biggest problems was the entire middle section of the computer, from the touch bar to the keyboard to the trackpad. And starting with the touch bar, I don't dislike it as much, because if I simply want to make it a function bar like it is on a standard computer, I can do that. But I can also add some functions in, such as Do Not Disturb and Siri and a lock button. So those are just nice benefits to a standard function row, and I can't really complain with that. But you can also customize it, and I really wish that Apple would have more native customization built in so you can customize it per app with different controls. That would be very handy. That would seem like a pro feature to me. But as it is, Apple doesn't give you a whole lot of customization in terms of app by app basis. You can get third-party extensions and apps for it. Most of them will cost money if they're any good, but the touch bar isn't really an issue if I use it just as the function row. But worst case scenario, I do just use it as the function row. Best case scenario, I use it app by app basis, and it gives me some neat shortcuts and things like Photoshop and Final Cut Pro. The keyboard has grown on me as well. Now, I still reminisce on the old MacBook keyboards, the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro. I like those a lot better, I won't lie. And even some of my Bluetooth keyboards that I have, some of my old iPad Pro 9.7 keyboards, my Logitech keyboard, I like those keyboards better. There's more travel, I like the sound better. But this is what it is. Apple is rumored to come out with a better keyboard later this year. And I also haven't had any durability issues with the machine, which is great. But Apple does offer a new repair program for the keyboards. But if you're buying this computer used or buying it without a warranty, this may not be very useful for you. So no, the Mac keyboard is no longer the best in the business. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is, I guess, at this point for the 2019 and older computers. And then the trackpad is obviously one of the best trackpads in the business. It's silky smooth, the glass surface is great, and there's no drag or friction. And the size is really good for creative use, but I still find that the palm rejection is not perfect, and a lot of times when I'm typing, my palm will move the cursor, and that's very frustrating. Based off my previous video, not a lot of other people have this issue, so keep that in mind. But for me, I still had a better typing experience on the older computers where I didn't have as much palm interaction with the trackpad. And then my final and biggest gripe still remains, and is just as strong. This thing is too hot to actually be a laptop. Now, I have the i9 version, and I think that was the mistake. Ultimately, I still think that the i7 is probably a better idea with this computer because it's so thin and metal, it does still struggle with its thermals. This thing is too uncomfortable for me to use on my lap when I'm doing something intensive, and even sometimes when I'm not using it intensively, it still heats up. The metal frame on this thing gets very hot. I don't like having it on my lap. I certainly have to be wearing pants, so I'm going to be doing that. Normally it's just sitting on my computer, but it also gets very, very loud. You can listen to this voice memo of the other day where I just randomly was exporting a 1080p video. It sounded like a jet engine. It was insane. And when I hold the Siri button on my computer, you can hear the fans die down. And then start back up. So that being said, I think i7 is probably the better idea so that the computer can properly cool it, can cool the processing power. Even with the initial update to the insane thermal throttling, it still isn't perfect. I think the i9 is not mastered on this computer. But an i7 processor with 16 or 32 gigabytes of RAM, I have 32, is going to be really good, and the SSDs are still essentially industry standard. They're so fast, very impressive, and if you get the 2018 MacBook Pro, you're going to be getting a very fast solid state drive, which will help every aspect of performance. Now, I like USB-C at this point. Having 4 USB-C ports is great. I usually have my dongle plugged in, which I can put my SD card in, and then a USB port for my microphone, for instance. I have another one connected to maybe a GoPro, and another one connected to a USB-C SSD, which I edit my video off of. So I usually have all 4 of these ports used. I definitely would struggle with a computer that only had 2, so the Pros is definitely nice that it has 4. I really just wish it had an SD card slot. I think that would be a pro feature, but then again, Pros often are using something more advanced than just a standard SD card to begin with. And the build quality is still industry standard, but doesn't mean the design is. So it's got the metal frame, it feels amazing. It's hefty, so it's not a light computer by any means. And the bezels do not compete with the top on the market. They're not huge bezels, but they're definitely not tiny either. So Apple definitely has room to grow, but also shrink in that aspect. It looks great, it feels great, and it's a very solid machine. And I have gotten a couple nicks on it in the corners just from hitting at random things. I'm very careful with my computer, so this was a little disappointing, but not terrible damage after a year and a half either. So I certainly wouldn't buy the new 2019 MacBook Pro, the one that was released in the spring. The 2018 isn't bad if you can get a good deal on it. I would stay away from the i9 processor, but you're getting that great SSD and you're getting powerful USB-C. But at the same time, I still wouldn't shy away from recommending maybe a 2017 MacBook Pro with a very similar body. Depends what you're looking for. This has the SSD speed for sure and the 32 gigs of RAM option. So let me know what computer you are using. Are you looking for a new computer? Are you looking for a new old computer? Let me know in the comments, but thanks for watching.